All right, Jim, the recorder's running. So
Okay.
tell me who you are, tell me what you do, tell me what the message is we're going to talk about.
Well, my name is Jim Hackett. I'm the chairman for the Sporting Dog Coalition of Virginia. And I think one of the things I wanted to discuss today is the aftermath of this battle that we just finished fighting last week and what lies ahead. Uh, it, I've been seeing a lot on social media, everybody has, about the comments, some of the comments I'm seeing kind of bother me. You know, the people want to almost, I say, for lack of better words, want to rub it in the face of these landowners, want to kind of stir the pot. You know, hey, you had this coming. Hey, I hope you like this. You know, it's just a lot of comments that I get it. Oh, I want to say it too. Trust me. You know, nothing you like better on a good fight is kick dirt in somebody's face. But uh, this battle is not going to end. It's going to continue. We're going to continue to fight this until the day we die, if hunting lasts that long. We have an enemy that is determined to take this away from us, and and and, and it's sad, but I'm so far I've seen that the deliberation, the tenacity of our enemies greater than the desire of those who own this to defend it. It seems like our own people just don't. I don't know if they're not listening, if they don't believe it. Maybe out of sight, out of mind is where they're at. I don't. I don't know. It's frustrating for me because I've been in this fight. I was in the. I was on the first hound study in 2008 for Virginia DWR, and I was fortunate to be selected to be on that committee as a stakeholder to represent hound hunting, and then I was selected again to be on this last study that concluded in January of 2025, 2024 is when it concluded. And, you know, I see these landowners and I basically an army behind them that are dug in and are determined, you know, that they're going to get their way. And you know, if we could just sit and base everything on facts and truth, I would have no worry. I wouldn't be worried at all. They would, but I've been involved in this fight long enough now to know that when it comes to politics, nothing. There's no rule anywhere that says politics has to be right to be implemented, and there's no requirement to be truthful. So you hear it all, you see it all when you're in that political arena, and what you come to recognize pretty quick is politics got a whole lot about who you know, the influence you're carrying, and the amount of money you got pushing. And if you can't, if you can't swim in that kind of water, you're going to drown. You're going to have to get into it. You're going to have to fight as difficult, as hard as the rest. Now, we've got the greatest asset in our favor, and that is our numbers. Our numbers of participants in the hound hunting sport, you know, they vary, but we know they're at least greater than 150,000 in Virginia, and that is major numbers. That's big time. I mean, if you could get these people coordinated and organized together and get everybody convinced of how real this threat is, uh, we can make ourselves a force that they can never overcome. They could never beat us. But the problem is we have so many people who just ain't listening, and that's a major problem. You know, more and more, I've seen this last evolution of last week. I've seen that seem to have reached out and touched more people. I've seen more people opening their eyes, getting plugged in, and those people who made that trip to Richmond, who came up there, they saw it firsthand. They saw how it worked. They got a good taste of it, and every one of them has left there saying the same thing. This ain't over. They're coming back. We're going to do this again, and yes, we will. We're going to do this again. We're going to do this next year. I guarantee it. If we can make it to next year before we have to do it again, that'd be a gift. But
Hey,
we have to
Jim,
get organized. Yes, sir.
I got a couple of questions I want to ask you.
Okay. Good thing
And
you
you,
stopped me. Yeah.
as the president of the Sport Dog Association, they're fairly easy questions, but it's stuff that comes up. You were talking about the comments. It's stuff that comes up in the comments all the time. And you and I have not talked about this ahead of time. I'm getting ready to ask you these questions blind, but I already know how you're going to answer them.
Okay.
I already know what the answers are. So, question number one: do hound hunters believe that they have the right to run their dogs on other people's property?
No, I don't
No,
believe. I don't believe. No, they do
no.
not. I don't. No.
Next question: are we rallying, demanding the right to run our dogs on other people's property?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. The
Absolutely.
apples all the time. You got to get rid of the bad apples, right?
Well, either you believe what you say or you lie. What is it?
That's true.
With,
So
and
in Virginia, is it
yeah.
is it illegal to turn dogs on somebody's property without permission in Virginia? Somebody's posted property.
Well, man, I'm sure glad you asked me that question. Let's say right here, 18.2, 132.1. Yes, it is. Any person who intentionally releases hunting dogs on the lands of another, which have been posted in accordance with the provisions of 18.2.134, to hunt without consent of the landowner or his agent is guilty of a class 3 misdemeanor.
So
Yes,
that's
sir.
already
It is.
illegal today. It's illegal today.
Yes, and it is today. It is illegal today. And this law, I believe, I'm pretty sure I'm correct in saying this, the Virginia Hunting Dog Alliance had a lot to do with getting that law passed. That happened when I was in the group, working with that group, and I think that's something that Mr. Birch had picked up on and pushed to get it passed. And it goes on to say that a second or subsequent violation of this section within 3 years is a class 1 misdemeanor, which is 12 months in jail or $2,500 fine. And upon conviction, the court shall revoke such person's hunting and trapping license for a period of 1 year. Now, it's important to know that this was one of my foundation arguments in the last 2 weeks as I spoke with delegates and senators. Because if you read House Bill 1396, at the end of it, it said that one dog trespassing was the instance would be $50. The second subsequent violations could be fined up to but not exceeding $250. But if you look at 18.2, 132.1 that I just read to you, if you look at that and read that, it was to me inevitable that this and this 1396 were not going to be merged. They were going to come together with the same alignment of violations down the road, meaning that if you had 3 instances of your dog's trespassing, you'd be looking at a class 1 misdemeanor, and losing your license for a year. But worse than that, what concerned me was, okay, so what if by the great misfortune, your dog hit a track right at the truck and immediately went across that property line, and you're scrambling to get your handheld out and start toning them as quick as you can. But let's face it, a dog runs pretty fast, and a dog gets the ground. So by the time you scroll through that number 4 font on that window of the handheld and get them toned, they're over there already. You're trying to get them back, and mine will come back Mine are trained to tone, but they're over there already. So suppose they go through a couple of trail cameras and they get 4 or 5 pictures of different dogs at one time. Well, then, can each dog be a case of trespass? That's a question I sent to the patron of the bill because I sent him 20 questions that he never responded to, and that was one of them. If I had multiple dogs go there, could I get charged for each one? Well, I know the answer. The answer is yes. It would be the same as if you and I both walked across that property line, we both get a ticket, right? It'd be 2 cases of trespass, and it'd be the same for your dogs. Well, the problem is that if that one unfortunate incident was occur, and you picked up 5 or 6 trespass violations at one time, you would lose your dog permit. You'd be paying over $1,000 in fines, and then you would lose your hunting license. In one incident, that's one time. That's why I was beating the drum on this bill. Man, this bill is bad. This thing is this, and I don't think it's no accident. I think it was by design. I think they wanted it like that. The advocates of this bill was selling it to the delegates and senators as, well, no, this is a bill just to address the bad actors of the sport and to get the hunting practice in check so they can live for years on. Well, no, it was not. No, not when you break it down and you read that and then you know what 132 says, you can see that was a tiger trap. That's a tiger trap in the woods covered up with grass. Somebody was going to fall in that one bigger than life. Yeah, I could see it coming. And then it concerned me about that word organizations. Because it said the organization had to get a permit. Well, if they're making the dog owner and the organization to obtain a permit, one would be foolish to think that you're being required to buy a permit just for the heck of $19. No, the $19 had nothing to do with it. I don't think it had anything to do with it. I think that the object is they want to make you get a permit so that they could take that permit from you. And if anybody who's in a hunting club gives us a little bit of thought, where would their club be if the organization lost its permit? It would destroy a hunting club. Well, don't you reckon that's by design? I mean, as bad as these people hate hunting dogs, I have no doubt that was the plan from the beginning. They were setting us up for failure and for deliberate failure, and that's why. And I think a lot of that hound organizations, we all scoped in and got on the same line. We saw where this was going if we let it get by, and that's why everybody was fighting so hard. In fact, we had.
So do you believe that somebody that is completely against hunting with dogs would actually try and present legislation to try and save hunting with dogs? That's something
Do
I
I
heard a lot. I heard people saying, "Oh, we're just
right?
doing this to
Yeah,
save
yeah,
your
yeah.
sport. We're just
I'm with
trying
you.
to save your sport."
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's an oxymoron, isn't it?
And I'd
I
see
think
the
it's what.
exact same person in a different place, um, ranting and raving about how he hated dogs and hoped they banned them. But then they'd make a comment, "We're just trying to save your sport."
Yeah. Well, they, like I say, I was in 2 different hound studies, and I heard it said many times, "We don't have anything against hunting with dogs. We just want you to keep them over there where they belong." Well, I can assure them that once you make it known you don't want that dog on your property, I can assure you that most every hound hunter doesn't want that dog over there either. Okay. Because I surely don't. I mean, I put my money and effort in raising my dogs all year for the enjoyment to hear them run. Okay. A true houndsman is not about killing deer or killing bears. He's about to chase. That's what true houndsmen do. And I did not go through all that to have them on somebody else's property running. I want to know where I'm at. And you know, it makes it, it's a slippery slope when your dog gets somewhere where you know he's not wanted and you don't want him there. And though we have the legal right to go retrieve our dog, you struggle or you get caught in a tight place because the issue of having legal right and having the moral right, it can be a challenge for the houndsman. Because for me, I want my dog back as quickly as I can, because especially if he crossed the road to get there, I want him back. But if my dog crosses the road, I won't leave. I'll sit right there. I will not leave that spot till I put that dog back in the truck. It's just, but like I said, my tone broke, so I'm gonna tone him until I get this if he needs to come back, you know. But still, I won't leave him. But at the same token, you know, good dogs are good dogs, and if they get on one that's hot, yeah, you know, if you really want him back that fast, you're gonna have to put hands on it, you know. And then what you don't want to do is, the last thing I want to do is go in and interrupt somebody's hunt, because then they'll really be hostile. And I don't blame them. I would too, you know. So you're, so what they say, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. You try to do the right thing, and you want to respect them. And you know, when this 1396 was first written, the first version of it, that's what it was talking about. That you had, you know, if the dog stayed on the property or some amount of time, you know, it was more to it about leaving the dog on there, you know. So they were forcing you to go get the dog, and I complained about that. I said, man, you know, sometimes you have to go get the dog, you know, but sometimes you don't have to go get the dog. You're not that minute. You don't have to have him that minute. He can stay over there, you know. And if they shoot you up the dog, fine. I don't care. You know, I don't care if you shoot a deer in front of my dog. I don't care. I just want the dog back, you know, and I want the dog back safe. And I've tried to explain this to many landowners through the years. I've had some discussions, and never really a lot of hard feelings at all. But I've shared with them that, you know, my dogs are trained, and I take some pride in that, because it takes some time and work to get there. Because my dogs are trained, so I can tone them back. But the problem I have is I'm watching my screen. I'm watching it closely. I mean, I'm zeroed in. I'm watching that dog move. And when he gets to a time where that dog ain't moving no more, something's wrong. Yes, something's happened. Now, it's only a few things it could be. You know, it's either the dog came up on the deer, and most of my dogs won't even chew on a deer, but he'll want to hang around. Uh, or the dog could have befallen misfortune and got hung up in the fence. It has happened. Yeah, I've had it happen for sure. And or somebody captured the dog and put him in a dog box. Now, if the dog is in there messing your hunt up and you want to put him in a dog box, I can understand that, providing you call me and tell me, hey man, I got your dog. I put him in the box. When I come out, I'll bring him with me. Okay. I hope it's not 9 o'clock in the morning and you're talking about 5 o'clock that afternoon. I hope that's not what we're talking about. But I can respect that. Okay. You caught my dog, you put him in the box, and you called me. Okay. You call me, then I can take that dog off my alert level. You know, I don't have to worry about him. He's in good hands. He's fine. He'll be okay. I'll get him back. Okay. That's good. Okay. It's when they come up missing or come up stationary and you don't get nothing. And when mine comes up stationary, I usually give 45 minutes for somebody to call me. And if they don't call me, well, then my plans are starting to change. Now I'm getting to a position I'm going to be forced to walk in there and check on my dog. And yes, I've had dogs shot. So, yeah, I know what it's like. So, and that's the problem, is that
So you
I,
mentioned the comment section earlier. Mentioned about people in the comment section saying different things. I've seen some horrible comments in the comment section.
oh yeah,
I think people say they take the collars off the dogs and and destroy them or put them. I've seen one guy said he put them on a truck going north,
That's right.
turn the
Well, I don't
dog
know.
loose in the middle of the interstate,
Uh,
or harm the dog in other ways. And I've just seen some horrible, horrible comments, and I really can't believe that anybody would want to associate with the people that have made these comments. But I don't know. So the question is, where do we go from here? How do we move forward?
well, it, it's the old saying: if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to keep getting what we're getting. So we have to make some changes, and I think some of the biggest changes we need to make is we need to become better organized. We need to come together, all houndsmen, every county, every discipline. I don't care if you run rabbits. I don't care if you treat squirrels. I don't care if you treat coons. It doesn't matter. They're after all of it. If you don't think so, look at 1396. They included rabbit hunters up to the end till a certain delegate struck a deal and got rabbits off of it because he's a rabbit hunter. That didn't sit too well with a whole lot of us. That didn't go over so well. But the point is being that it's not only about deer hounds. In fact, uh, this is, I don't even really believe this is totally about hound trespass. That's the argument they're presenting. And
You done any reading on Texas?
yeah, I'm getting ready. You took the thunder right out of my gun, man. I was getting
You
ready
know
to
where
go
I
there.
was living in 1990?
Where was that at?
San
Texas.
Antonio, Texas.
Well, you should have heard it firsthand, pretty close.
I was going to say, you know what happened in 1990?
1990. That would have been that ain't where they burned the game ward's house down, was it?
They banned hunting with dogs, hunting deer with dogs
Yeah.
in Texas.
Well,
I was
that's
there.
what
I lived
followed.
there. I was living there
Yeah,
when it happened.
that's what followed. They I guess I'll back up just a little bit. The there were lobbying efforts occurring in the Texas legislature about hunting dogs, and the good old boys of Texas. A lot of people didn't realize this, but in eastern Texas was quite a bit of hound hunting going on, and they they were aware that there was talk going on in the legislature about the dogs, and the good old boys kind of dug in and was going to send a statement, kind of like the shots fired at Fort Sumter. Maybe that was done a little bit too early. uh, these guys got together and they burned the game ward's house down to send a message. Well, they sent a message, all right. The Texas legislature shut down hound hunting very quickly. Now, I wouldn't say overnight, but it was very quickly. And because of that, that was a driving force that broke the camel's back. Well, this was at a time when there was no internet. We didn't have internet then. We didn't have social media. And if there was any out there, the good old boys in the four-wheel drive pickup trucks won't want it. We didn't have smartphones, so nobody was there. So that information is where I'm coming. The information wasn't getting out there, so everybody didn't hear about this. Well, Texas lost their privilege. It's gone. Well, then when 2003 rolls around, history restarted to repeat itself in the state of Georgia. Lobbying efforts were taking place in the legislature, and they were trying to pass rules that would have a negative impact on the practice of hunting with dogs in Georgia. Well, the good old boys there said, they ain't gonna take it from us. My daddy did it, my granddaddy did it, his daddy did it. They'll never take it from us. So instead of being open-minded and logical, to get involved in the talks and discussions and exercise their rights as citizens to talk to their legislators. They didn't talk at all. They didn't communicate with them. I did a case study on this. That's why I may sound like I know what I'm talking about, because when I did the first hound study, we did a case study on this, and I carried it further. I carried it further where I called Georgia Wildlife Resources. I called some hound organizations there and talked to them about this. And what came out, they said that it was down to the last 36 to 39 hours before the houndsman ever came forward and wanted to just have a discussion. Well, that time, you know yourself, the decision's already been made. They know what they're going to do at that time. And they had to go to the General Assembly with their hats in their hand and begging for an opportunity to speak. Well, and I'm saying they is that group of people that exists out there somewhere that know all things about everything, but we have no idea who they are. Well, they allowed a person of ranking authority from the Humane Society of the United States to take charge of the meeting. And they basically told him how it's going to be. This is what you're going to get. They didn't get a whole lot of saying. There wasn't much negotiation for them at that point. Well, they got the infamous Georgia rule shoved down their throat. And ever since that got by, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, has beat the drum on how great the Georgia rule is. And the Georgia rule is a great rule. If you hate dogs and you want to get rid of them, that's a great rule. That'll work. That'll do it. Some will dispute the numbers, but from the sources I got from the hound study in 08, they said 30% of organized clubs folded in 2 years in the state of Georgia. And that was mostly because just of the contiguous rule. They passed a law said you had to have 1,000 acres contiguous in order to hunt with dogs. And in fact, I was reading that before we got hooked up. And not only did you have to have 1,000 acres contiguous, if you drove across anybody's property to get to that property, you had to have written permission from them to be allowed to hunt dogs on that property. If your dogs got off the property, you were fined for dogs. That's where dog trespass came from. You had to have the permit. Voila, 1396. Required you to have the numbers on your truck, numbers on the dogs, the whole gauntlet. And if you had any adjoining landowners around you that you may exit their property one way or shape or form or go upon their property, you had to have written permission from them as well. So it was a rule designed to make it as difficult as they could possibly make it. And so difficult that 30% of the clubs folded. And, you know, I've heard this minimal acreage echoed in Virginia year after year after year. And, you know, it aggravates me to hear it because the people who are saying this don't know what they're saying. They don't have no understanding of the sport of hunting with dogs, unless they're just saying it from the position they want to get rid of dogs. You know, I don't care if you're hunting 10 acres. It doesn't matter. What matters is the steps and precautions you take to try to keep the dogs contained where they're supposed to be. You can't take 20 acres of property and dump 10 walkers on there. I mean, come on. We know they're not going to stay there, and it's obvious if you did that, your intent is for them not to stay there. You know, and that's some problems that
That's
we run
true.
into. Yeah, and that's the problems we have in Virginia sometimes.
That's
I
true.
hear people complain about it, and they're right. You know, you got to hunt any property with common sense and a proper measure. You know, but you can't say there's got to be 1,000 acres minimum, because what are you saying? You tell a man with a bird dog can't go in there, or a man with 2 small beagles can't go in there. And he's got like take me for instance. I own
I can hunt
200
10
acres.
acres with beagle.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. So I own
I can hunt 10
200
acres with
acres.
my squirrel dog.
There you go. So if they pass 1,000 acre rule and I own 200 acres, you're trying to say now that I spent a couple $100,000 buying the land, and now you tell me I can't hunt my dogs on it? I mean, I beg to differ because
If
I
you
agree.
if you
I mean,
change that if you change that wording in that minimum acreage,
yes, sir.
change it from dogs to all management practices, nobody wants to support it anymore. For example, you have to have a minimum of 1,000 acres to have food plots, to do any type of management at all on your property.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they don't want that anymore.
Why not? You're right.
As long as it affects somebody other than them, they're great with it. But when it affects them, they don't support it anymore.
Oh, you're exactly right.
And my dog
Exactly right.
decided to bark exactly when I decided to talk. I've had my microphone muted. I unmuted it, and she decided she wanted to bark at something.
I think she agrees. uh, yeah, I think that aggravates me too is that DWR. If you talk to their biologists, they'll tell you that you can't manage deer on a tract of property less than 1,500 acres. You need that much to manage deer. And and it's not to say that you can't have 200 acres, 250 acres, and not have food plots. You can have all that, but if you happen to catch a 150, 160 pound quality deer on your trail cameras, you would be seriously naive to think that he's staying there on your property if that's all you got, because you know deer range a lot anyway at night, but he's sure not going to keep him on something on a 200, 300 acre property. He ain't going to stay there. So they get all upset because they watch these television shows, and well, it's got to be true because it was on YouTube or Facebook, and they saw it, and yeah, they killed 180 point class buck right off a 30 acre piece of land. So it's got to be true. Everybody can do it, and if you don't do it, if you can't do it, well, it's got
You
to be the
mentioned
dog's fault.
you mentioned something interesting about seeing a nice buck on trail camera and being, crazy to think they were going to stick around.
Right.
So Jim, we're hunting about 10,000 acres, and we own part of it. We lease part of it, and then we own farmland that's around it that we're not hunting the farmland. So, but we have trail cameras at the farms. So there was a deer that was at one of the turkey farms that was 3.5 miles away on trail cam at 4 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday morning. 3.5 miles away, I shot that deer and put him on top of my dog box at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We know it's the same deer because he had some very unique antlers. So you said you can't manage deer on 1,500 acres. I don't think you can manage deer on 10,000 acres. We can't do it.
Yeah, that's what I say. You can, if you don't kill them small, you'll increase the numbers of quality bucks on your property in time, which increases your odds of success. But if you think that you're going to pinpoint a buck and you're going to hunt that buck down, good luck with that. Good. I ain't saying it can't be done, but it ain't gonna be done at a uh, very often. I say that you're not gonna do it very often. Not as much as
So I
you
got
think you
30
could.
acres and I've named my buck. I've named one George and I've named one Timmy. And I'm gonna sit and watch them grow. I'm gonna let my deer grow. I'm not gonna shoot them. But the people next to me have 10,000 acres, and they shoot both of my deer and put them on their dog box.
Oh man.
All the problems with that is number one, naming a deer. Number two, saying they're my deer. You see where I'm going with that, right?
Yeah. I got you. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
we don't let them walk much. They tend to eat soybeans and corn and stuff, and we ain't raising deer. We're raising corn and soybeans.
I got you.
You
I
see where I'm
got you.
getting with that?
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. Well, and that's the way it is in a lot of places. A lot of places, because the hunting pressure is probably not enough. That's the story you get from the landowner. Shoot them. you know, if you want to keep on there, you do what the man says you do. You know, I am a management guy. I mean, I haven't shot a deer under 14 inches in man, I don't know, 10, 12 years or more, I guess. It's been a while, you know. But it's just me. That's me. Because as a young man, I killed my deer. I killed plenty. You know, I don't, like I said, now I didn't even pull the trigger this year. I wasn't out there to kill the deer. I said that earlier. I'm a houndsman. I want to run the dogs. Now did I have a good season? I had a fabulous season. Man, I got through the whole season. I didn't lose a single dog, and my dogs run like the woods was on fire, buddy. I mean, I had some memorable days. I had some good days where people came to me and told me, "Man, your dog rope." I had one guy with hunts in our group. My dogs run 19 deer by him that day, and it was no more than maybe two or three at the most in a group. He was in a good place, and the dogs kept going back and forth and back and forth. And he come out, he said, "Man, your dog boy killing it." I said,
So a couple of years ago, we brought a guy in to guest hunt with us. The club, I told you it's a large club. We've been managing the deer on the club since 1974. So I was a little boy then. So, I mean, this is second generation. Actually, we're probably in the fourth generation now with the grandchildren and great-grandchildren that are there. It's family. Yeah. But we brought a guy in to guest hunt, still hunter. And he told me at 10 o'clock that day that he had seen more deer from 7 to 10 o'clock on our club than he had seen in 3 years still hunting.
Wow.
He said, y'all got a deer behind every bush. He said, and you're not shooting them. That's what gets me. We got a management rule. You can take a buck of any size. We don't care. But your second buck's going to fuck above his ears. So I got a video that actually went viral that's on Facebook. I'm standing out behind my truck, GoPro cameras on my hat, and the deer is standing across the ditch from me. I could have probably killed a deer with a slingshot. The deer is right across the ditch from me. The radio is blabbing. I'm talking, my cousins got sunburn on their tongue that day. They talk so much. But the radio's just jabbering away. The deer's just standing there, and I can't see the deer's head. And I've already shot a buck. So I don't have the opportunity of taking a buck of any size. I had a buck tag in my pocket. I had doe tags in my pocket. I had a bear tag in my pocket. But our club rules were I'd already taken a buck, so this second buck had to fork above his ears. And I couldn't see this deer's head. I didn't know if it was a buck or a doe. I thought it was a buck because I could see its hind end and it looked like a buck. But I didn't know I don't know if he was a rack buck. I don't know what he was. So I literally stood there and watched him, and the camera's filming and people are talking in the background, and the deer just finally just walks away and never shows me his head. So I kill about maybe 2% of the deer that I see. I enjoy working the dogs myself, and I try and keep them on my property. It's a little easier to keep them on 10,000 acres than it is to keep them on 200. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I understand that accidents can happen. Even men with the best intentions in the world can make a mistake. So we shouldn't punish mistakes. We really shouldn't. And we should be able to get along with our neighbors. I try and get along with my neighbors. We had a situation where we had a neighbor that was a little out of shape with us. I didn't get on Facebook and cry about it. You know what I did? I got my truck and drove over to his house, went and knocked on his door. We had a talk. Came back the next day with a deer ham. He was really happy. He liked deer. And he just misunderstood some of the things that were happening. And we had a conversation. And that was 6 years ago. And we hadn't had any more trouble with this guy. I mean, none. Zero. He's got my phone number. He knows how to get up with me. If he needs me, he calls me. But we don't have any trouble. And when I say we had trouble with this guy, I'm talking we had an armed standoff where he fired a weapon at one of our club members. Now think about that for a minute. That's going to jail for a little while kind of problem. We solved it with a pie and some iced tea.
I hear you.
So this stuff about people wanting to argue with each other all the time, I don't understand it. I really don't. I cannot wrap my head around how it's better to be mean to your neighbor and aggravate your neighbor than it is to just try and get along with your neighbor. Why can't we
Well,
be good neighbors?
I think a lot of this is a lot of landowners are convinced that this is being done deliberately. These acts of what they term as trespass is deliberate actions or callous, inconsiderate actions of hound hunters. And I think that's a very, very small number of cases, a very small number. They talk about the bad actors.
Well,
Let me tell you something.
speaking of bad actors, a guy told me recently, and I'd never heard this before. This is the first time I'd ever heard this accusation. I had a guy tell me recently that two guys would go walk through his property and say that they were looking for their dog using the right to retrieve, and they were actually doing a man drive.
Yep.
I've heard, and he told me that. I kind of shook my head. I was like, "What? Are you serious? Is this a real thing or is this a hypothetical thing?" He said, "No, it's real. It happened."
Yeah.
And
I Go ahead.
I couldn't wrap my head around it. Number one, I couldn't imagine anybody doing it. Why?
Well, glad you brought that up. I had a conversation with a conservation police officer about this, and there was a landowner present. Uh, I think it was during the hound study because they made that claim that they were coming on his property, actually hooping and hollering, making a man drive in the name of right to retrieve. I said, why didn't you call the law? He says,
Same
nothing to
question
do.
I
They had
had.
to, he said they got the right to retrieve. I said, you're not listening. And I looked at the conservation police officer. He said, well, there's nothing you can do about it. I said, you're wrong. I said, what does the law say? I said, the law says right to retrieve. You can't retrieve it if you don't know it's there. It didn't say you have the right to go in there and look and search. That ain't what it said. It said you had the right to retrieve. I said, that's why
You just
some years
froze.
back, I froze. How's
Yeah, you're
that?
back.
Okay. A few years ago, I was open minded and willing to have right to retrieve amended to say that right to retrieve can only be exercised with the use of GPS tracking equipment. Okay? Because that way you had the proof that the dog was there and you should have every right to go get him. But unfortunately, when you deal with the General Assembly, if you take a bill in there in good faith to have it, say, polished to be better suited for the situation, unfortunately, once it gets to the floor, anybody can change it any way they want. And because of that, we'll never agree to it. And the landowners always say, well, y'all not willing to compromise. Y'all not willing to do this. You're not willing to give this up. We cannot give up anything because you can't trust the legislators to do what you ask them to do. Because there are some up there that absolutely have a heartache for dogs. And if they ever get a bill up there, they're going to slice it and dice it and destroy it, and it'll come out looking like something else. And so we've not ever going to compromise right to retrieve. We're never going to do it. We're never
So I
going to
got an
compromise that
interesting
at all.
thing for you. You keep saying the landowners are saying this and that. Not all landowners disagree with dog hunting. If they did, it wouldn't exist.
Shucks, man, that's an understatement of the world.
I mean,
We
if
had
they all if everybody was up in arms about it, it wouldn't exist. I mean,
yes,
I've got land I can hunt on, but not everybody does. A bunch of people lease their land, which I lease some too. But but you see where I'm going with that?
oh yeah, oh yeah,
There's a
yeah. I mean,
lot of people out there that are claiming to represent the landowners that I don't think they represent all the land. They don't represent me.
they don't represent. They represent a minute fraction. A minute fraction. We had a group of landowners go up to the General Assembly week before last And just the ones we had there, they were just the 3 or 4 we had, they were representing 4 or 5,000 acres. Just those 3 or 4, or however it was. But and that was just them. And we had others that were coming, but they couldn't come that day, that were big time landowners. These guys owned 6,000, 7,000 acres individually. And the point that we made to the senators was the organization that was pushing this bill sold themselves as the voice for Virginia landowners. And they were anything but that. They were a minute fraction, but they sold themselves as that. And those landowners went up there to take a position and told these senators, just what you just said. They don't speak for me. They don't speak for us. We hadn't even heard about this bill till this week, and now we hear that you're going to infringe on our rights. You'll take our rights away when we own tenfold the land they got, and we hadn't even heard about this. And they're up here selling themselves as they represent us. No, they do not. They don't represent us at all. And that hit home with some senators. Like they hit home with them. They realized they were basically being sold a package. It wasn't what they said it was. They were being told information that wasn't truthful, and I think it kind of rubbed some of them really wrong. Because they just.
Well, buddy, we're just about out of time, so we're gonna have to put a bow on this thing. What's your closing statement?
Well, my closing statement would be this fight is going to be equally as hard next year and every year thereafter, and that all houndsmen have got to come together. And this ain't just words. We need actions. We need the skills of those to come in and get into the pool and contribute, and we need funding. I've heard some numbers dropped that was used to press this bill in the General Assembly, and the numbers I heard was in the hundreds of thousands. Now, when you take 150,000 hound hunters, how much money would we have if every person just gave $10 a year? And you ain't got to give it to me. They don't have to give it to me. They give it to whatever hound organization they like. Yeah, I don't care. This ain't no competition. I'm not in competition with another group. Yeah, I don't need to be a hero. If it comes to our organization, I'll put it to good use. I promise you. But and so will the others. I trust them for that. But the organizations, I think, have recognized that us working together is going to be necessary. We're going to have to pool our resources. We're going to need to start communicating. We need to work together to make this thing live on. If everybody gets out there and tries to solo this, we're going to go nowhere fast. So we got to work together. We need everybody to get on board. We need people to take it serious. And I would ask that all clubs start getting together and start every year making an annual contribution. For what we're asking for, $10 a member, that's chump change. That is chump change. But we talking about 150,000 members. You're talking $1.5 million. What kind of force could we be with that kind of money? That's what I got, bro.
That's a good point. That's a real good point. I would actually say something else too. Go talk to your neighbor. Go talk to your neighbor and landowner. Even the guy that's been yelling at you, go talk to him.
You're exactly right. Maybe we can go do this again because I got some other things.
Me too.
Some longer subjects I'd like to say that need to be out there. We need to talk. We need to elaborate more on that part right there.
All right. Well, Jim, take care. Thank you for being here today.
Well, I tell you, it was my gift. Thank you. I mean, it was a gift to me to be here, so I enjoyed it.